In this short film, I'd like to cover off the 5 easy, relatively, steps to actually getting your business ready for auto-enrolment. Step 1 is to actually sit down as a business and decide what you want to do. The government has laid down set criteria that have to be met as a minimum by all businesses. However, you as a business owner may decide that you want to go above and beyond the minimum requirements that the government has set. This will include deciding the level of contribution, the number of employees that will be included in the scheme, and how quickly you'll allow them to be enrolled. The minimum requirements are that you will have to offer this to all eligible employees, those being at least age 22 and below state pension age, who are earning more than £8,105 a year in the current tax year. By the time your business qualifies, that figure will be higher as it will be inflated each year by the government. You also need to decide who within your business is going to be responsible for all the administration that goes with the auto-enrolment requirements. The majority of this will be online, but you'll still need to specify someone who is the registered point of contact between your business and whichever pension scheme you decide to go with. You'll also need to decide how you're going to pay the contributions across. In most cases, this will be by direct debit or other form of automatic payment. However, given the fact that a lot of smaller employees will now be for the first time making pension payments on behalf of their employees, payment by credit card is also going to be an option. As well as setting out all these criteria within the business, you need to also to inform your employees of what's going on and what's going to be happening in the future. Step 2 is getting your business ready for auto-enrolment. You need to decide which pension provider you're going to register with. There are a number of different options available to you. However, if you don't choose a particular pension provider, you will automatically be registering with NEST, which is the National Employee Savings Trust, which is the preferred provider set up by the government. You'll need to register on their website. You'll need to decide who in your firm is going to be the nominated person to deal with the day-to-day administration. You need to make sure all your employee records are accurate and up to date. You also need to check that your payroll software can cope with this. In most cases, payroll software already includes the provision for pension contributions, and auto-enrolment is just another form of pension provision. Our understanding is that most, if not all, of the payroll software providers are already ready for auto-enrolment, but it wouldn't do any harm just to check to make sure. You also need to make sure that your processes are in place within the business so that everyone knows what the responsibilities are, what time certain tasks have to be completed by, and whose responsibility it is to liaise with your employees, because there will be no verbal contact available with your pension provider. Everything will be online. You will not have the opportunity to pick up a telephone and ask questions of someone in a call centre, because the volume of people joining these new schemes is simply going to be too great to allow any of the providers to give telephone access. Step 3, you need to notify your employees. Now, depending on the size of the business and when your staging date is, you may decide that it's too early at the moment to actually be telling your employees what's going on that's specific to your business. However, please bear in mind that this is starting to feature more and more prominently in the press and the media in general, and your employees may start coming to you with questions sooner than you expect. This means you need to have at least an understanding of what your business is planning on doing, or be able to tell them by what stage you expect to have made that decision. You need to let each employee know whether they're eligible to join, whether they're going to be automatically joined into the new scheme, or whether they'll have the option to ask to join the scheme. You need to let them know when the new scheme will be taking effect from, and what, if any, waiting period that you're going to put in place. The system automatically enrolls people from day one. As soon as your staging date arrives, all your eligible employees will be entered into the system. However, you as the employer can decide, if you wish, to defer the enrolment for a period of up to 3 months from your staging date. This may be an advantage to you and your business, because when you're taking on new staff, if you don't have a waiting period, they will automatically be entered into the new pension scheme, and you'll have to make contributions on their behalf, even if they leave you relatively quickly afterwards. Setting up a waiting period seems a sensible option simply because it gives you, the employer, greater control over who's joining and when. Your employees will also want to know what their options are within the new scheme, and this is information that again will predominantly be available through the website of your selected pension provider. You will find a lot of useful information on the website, whether it's Nest or a different provider, including downloadable documents that you can make available in the workplace, although it may be easier for you as a business to identify one computer within the business that your employees can go to that is set up so that they can easily access the information that they're looking for. You as the employer have the responsibility to enrol your employees into a pension scheme. You are not responsible for advising them whether or not they should join this scheme or any other scheme, or indeed responsible for advising them on what they should do with any existing pension provision that they may have already. As well as advising your existing employees of their options, you need to make sure that you have provision in the business to explain to your new employees what their options are, and you also have to be able to advise any people who are leaving you what options they have with regard to this pension scheme as well. Step 4 is actually enrolling your employees. You can do this in a number of ways depending on which pension provider you've chosen, but the main options are either manually sit down at a computer, log into the chosen provider's website and key in the details of each of your individual employees. If you're a relatively small employer, this is probably not too onerous a task. However, repetition will probably dull the senses and you might want to find an alternative way of doing this. The two main alternatives are you either put all the details on a spreadsheet and effectively email it across to the pension provider, or you set your data up in such a way that electronically it can be transferred straight into your chosen provider's website. The latter is obviously the easier. However, if you're like me and not very good at IT, you might want to take some expert advice on how to do this. Step 5 is managing the payments and dealing with any of your employees who wish to opt out. You will collect payments from your employees and make your employer contributions based on how often you pay your employees, whether that be weekly, fortnightly or monthly. You as the employer have a legal responsibility to make sure that the payments are sent to your chosen pension provider within a set timescale, and there are penalties for late payments. So make sure that the systems are in place to deal with this as early as possible. For any employee who wants to opt out, they can only do so once you've actually put them into the scheme. You cannot opt out of something you're not already a member of, and therefore you have a responsibility to enrol all your eligible employees from day one. This means that they will then have the option to opt out, and as an employer you hope they'll do so before you've actually paid them and made any deductions. Any one of your employees who opts out during the first month is entitled to a refund of any contributions paid across personally, and you as the employer are also entitled to a refund of any money you paid in on their behalf. However, it is your responsibility to deal with the administration of these refunds on behalf of the pension provider that you've chosen. For those employees who don't opt out within the first month, they still have the right to do so at any time in the future. However, any payments made by themselves and you as the employer cannot be refunded after that first month has expired.